In one of the previous videos that I did on the Fantastic Four, I made a statement that was perhaps kind of bold because I didn't really know what I was talking about at the time. I asked the question based on my own experiences with the Fantastic Four, whether or not anyone actually liked the Fantastic Four. I don't ever remember anyone reading a Fantastic Four comic book. There was briefly, I believe, a cartoon show when I was a child, but I don't think anybody watched that either. I think that it was short lived. And by the way, so too was the Iron Man show that was kind of contemporary with it. And that show was short lived as well, didn't do all that well for children until boom, you have a movie. The movie really captures what the character is, and all of a sudden, a Marvel Cinematic Universe star is born. But I asked the question, does anyone actually like the Fantastic Four? Kind of, just to throw it out there. And then I got curious. I got curious and wondered, if there's a way to find an answer to that, and can the movie, the Fantastic Four movie coming out this summer, actually succeed? Is there any way that this movie succeeds? And I think no. There is no way that movie wins, and I am going to go through the actual biggest reasons why, in my opinion, in this video. So here's the thing. There is apparently a website called Ranker, and what they have purported to do is collected 105,000 voters that have ranked their top 100 Marvel Comics superheroes. And I know this is all nerdy, but guys, hang with me for a moment. If you weren't nerdy too, you wouldn't be here. So people have ranked their top 100-ish characters, and then it becomes composited by the website that makes a composite list of the most popular characters. 105,000 voters? Guys, that's a pretty strong bet. That is a pretty good indicator on where these characters lie, just sort of in the general public. And there will be no surprises here. I'm not going to hold out, but I do think there are some things that we can learn from this list after I go ahead and ruin the Fantastic Four movie. The top ranked character from the Fantastic Four in the top 100 Marvel Comics superheroes is all the way at 13, and it's Silver Surfer. It's not Silver Surfette. It's Silver Surfer. It's Norrin Radd. Now, I will contend that most people who like Silver Surfer and hit that button to put Silver Surfer ranked number 13 overall have no idea anything about Silver Surfer except for the way that he looks. I think that is the main selling point for the character. Prove me wrong, I defy you. But the backstory on Norrin Radd is actually pretty interesting. It appears, however, in this movie, she's a boss lady. Okay, but what you've done is taken the highest ranked, I almost said player, the highest ranked character in your movie and completely changed them. So you have to scratch that off the list. That is not the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfette is a different character. Did not, by the way, to my experience, perhaps I am wrong, because that is a character in the comic books, did not rank in the top 100. So, there's that. The second ranked member of the Fantastic Four, and by the way, the Silver Surfer isn't a member of the Fantastic Four, technically not really a hero, depending on how you look at things in the comics, but 30th with The Thing. Now, The Thing in this movie, through the previews, etc., seems strange to me. I cannot put my finger on it. I think that the character exists in that uncanny valley type of area where he just sets the hair on my arms up. But some people really do seem to love the way the thing looks in this movie. There are others who say that it's his voice they don't really understand. I think that they were going for the character that Taika Waititi played in the Thor movie. That whole dichotomy, the big scary guy with the kind of weird little voice. I think they were reaching back into their bag of tricks and trying to get that to work again. Whether or not it will, we have yet to see. But 30th, overall, that is the top character that they have in this movie. The second character, very shortly thereafter, number 31, with the Human Torch. Seemingly, from everything we've heard about this movie, the Human Torch has been castrated in this film. He is cocky. He is braggadocious. He is bold. He is one of these characters that is ready, shoot, aim in his mentality in the comic books. And that is kind of his main selling point. I mean, he is a brash young man. And apparently he is not in this film. And not just speculative. This is through interviews that the cast themselves have given. Johnny Storm is not the way that he is in the comics. Okay, well, that's your second ranked character. So right now, your number one and number three, or that's your number three ranked character. Your number one and number three ranked characters are completely different than they show up in your comic books. What happened, MCU, to just keeping it straight from the pages of the comics, and it should work on the screen? What happened to that? Now, obviously, it's not always that way. It's not always been that way in the MCU, but they've kind of tried to, in the past, keep true to most of the spirits of their characters. That's what worked for Iron Man. That's what almost worked for the Hulk, worked for moments in the Hulk movie with Edward Norton. That is what worked in Captain America. That's what worked in Thor. There's so many examples of this that the only real example that they strayed from the comics pretty heavily, but it still worked, was Guardians of the Galaxy. But still, I contend that most of the character of those characters is still there. Now, the co-lead, not only are your two of your top three characters in this movie changed, they're not the leads either. This movie seemingly does not revolve around the Thing or the Human Torch. It's Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. Now, Mr. Fantastic is all the way down at 52. All the way down at 52 on the list of the 100 most popular Marvel heroes. And guys, if you had to put together the general comic book fan, if you had to take the general comic book fan and tell him, because it is a him, to rank his top 100 actors, Pedro Pascal might rank even lower than 52 with Mr. Fantastic. Okay, so you have taken the fourth most popular character in this film and given him an absolutely toxic actor by whom to be portrayed. Absolutely submarining everything so far on this list. Silver Surfer, not Silver Surfer. The Thing kind of throws me off. Maybe some people are cool with it. Human Torch, not actually Johnny Storm. Mr. Fantastic, well, he's played by kind of a wet mop. Okay, cool. Now, the least popular character in this movie is Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman is 55th on the top 100. The least popular character of this group of characters. And wouldn't you know it? From everything we've heard, she's the lead. And from everything we've heard about this movie, everything that's leaked, everyone who's supposedly seen the test screenings, everything that has been said in all of these interviews, she is the most dominant force on the screen. Okay. She's also your your least popular character. So, I think there are some things that we can learn from this list in general. However, first, the classics are always the classics. Look at this top 10. Scarlet Witch might seem a little surprising if you were familiar with Marvel through the movies exclusively, but very popular in the comic books. Number 1, Spider-Man. Number 2, Wolverine. Number 3, Thor. Number 4, Deadpool. Number 5, Iron Man. Number 6, the Hulk. Number 7, Captain America. Number 8, Doctor Strange. Number 9, Black Panther. Number 10, Scarlet Witch. Okay, cool, right? There are some things we can learn there, though, as well. The classics are the classics. Number 1 and number 2, there's Spider-Man and Wolverine. I got a Marvel something when I was a kid. I don't know what it was, but this made a huge impression on me because this was during the days of the X-Men cartoon. And I remember there was it might have been just a comic book. It was either a comic book or one of these books that tells you how to draw, but I think it was just a comic book. And there was like a flyer inside. And the flyer was making a big deal of the fact that for the first time in their characters' histories, Wolverine had overtaken Spider-Man in terms of mass popularity. That was a big thing to me because I was a Wolverine fan as a kid, being strange and standoffish and short. Those were all things that described me as well. So the interesting thing about this is that everyone is saying the first family of Marvel, Fantastic Four, first family of Marvel, the most important Marvel comic book. I've heard all of these things to describe the Fantastic Four. That top 10 is very Fantastic Four-less. Another thing to look at here, very interesting, Iron Man at number 5. Guys, if you go back to 2012, 2013, 2014, hard to think that's been a decade now, Iron Man would have been number 1. And it would have been through the power of the MCU. It would have been because of Robert Downey Jr. It would have been because of all of these things. He would have been number 1. Iron Man 3 came out in 2013. Is that correct? 2013 for Iron Man 3? Been 12 years, and that character has fallen so far down this list. Now, Iron Man, prior to that movie, the 2008 Robert Downey Jr. experience, I don't think would have been in the top 10 of Marvel comic characters. In the top 10 of Marvel comic heroes, let alone characters. We'll get back to that idea in a moment. But with the power of the movie, shot him up the rankings. Deadpool, probably the same. Deadpool, having only been a comic book character, was popular with a certain subset of comic fans. Was not mass appeal until the movies really took him. And I mean, 4 is, when you think of the characters that Deadpool is ahead of in these rankings, Captain America, Doctor Strange, Hulk. Hulk's popularity goes back to the 70s in the mainstream with a television show. So a lot of characters below Deadpool. The next thing that I want to talk about with this list does not include villains. So maybe the Silver Surfer at 13 would be lower. I guarantee you he'd probably be a couple spots lower. I would bet you right now, Thing, Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, and Invisible Woman would all move down in these rankings were Magneto, Doctor Doom, Thanos, Venom, Carnage, Loki, maybe even Sabretooth and Apocalypse, right? So that is between 6 and 8 spots. If villains were on this list, Thing becomes 36 or 38, the Invisible Woman moves into the 60s. That's an absolutely wild thing to think about when you're wondering, can a movie make $1 billion because it has a $400 million budget? That is an absolutely wild thing to think about when you're considering the fact that Marvel needs the Fantastic Four in order to really have a leg to stand on going forward. They need something to work for them right now, and it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not there for them. Now, something else to talk about here is Groot on this list is number 12. Rocket Raccoon is number 15. Star-Lord is number 16. Drax is 42. Gamora is 43. So, what does that tell you? Why can I bring that up as a talking point? It means that you can create an audience. Prior to the James Gunn film, I kind of guarantee you none of those characters would have been on that list. Prior to the James Gunn film, you could not have found a person in your city to tell you who Groot was, let alone what Groot said. Prior to that movie, had you said there will be a raccoon on screen wielding massive guns, people would have thought you were talking about a crackpot pipe dream of a movie. James Gunn did it. James Gunn pulled it off. Hooray! He created an audience around that movie. But I think that in order to do that, you have to either be true to the character, like Iron Man, or you have to make them more interesting, the way that I think James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that might sound like sacrilege if you are a comic book fanatic, if you are a comic book truist, but I don't think that it is unfair to those movies to say that they made the characters more interesting. Bautista as Drax is way more interesting, maybe not as scary as Drax in the comic books, way more interesting. Has a lot more levels than Drax in the comic books, because ironically, he kind of has one level in the movies. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here, as I disprove that the Fantastic Four is going to be anything to save Marvel, this is Google Trends. And you can see Fantastic Four. I know it's hard to see, it's kind of small, but the blue lines there represent the Fantastic Four. The blue line all the way through. You have a spike back in 2005. Why would that have been? No one will care to remember. And then you have a massive spike here starting in February of this year as the marketing shtick went into full swing for this movie. Okay, great. But the red line, which is constantly higher than the blue line until, well, I mean, there's spikes for the blue line, but until February this year, that red line, that's Magneto. That is a villain from one, like Magneto doesn't do Fantastic Four. Magneto doesn't do Avenger stuff, really. Magneto doesn't do Guardians of the Galaxy. Magneto's basically exclusively in X-Men comics. That's a supervillain. Now, I think this is a very popular supervillain, but it is constantly above the Fantastic Four. The search trends for Magneto. You can also see there that pretty much all the time, the yellow line is also above the Fantastic Four. That's Ghost Rider. You want to scare executives at Marvel? Show them this and tell them, hey, you know what you ought to do? Look into how much money those Ghost Rider movies made. Because they didn't. That character, Ghost Rider, constantly above the Fantastic Four in terms of search trends. Here's a pretty scary one. That green line there that occasionally, going all the way back to 2004, by the way, that green line that occasionally peaks over the blue line, that's Thunderbolts. If Fantastic Four performs the way that Thunderbolts did, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in massive trouble because they're having a bomb as they head into an Avengers movie, which has already been pushed back. And the rumor there is they're replacing Pedro Pascal as one of the leads in that movie. That's not a good sign for the product that the executives at Marvel know at this point that they have. So all of this is just to say, maybe Pedro Pascal is an albatross and the movie can perform without him. Maybe the fact that Sue Storm is, for some reason, the main character and the most powerful presence on screen in this movie, maybe the movie can perform despite that. I guess I'm maybe the only one that the uncanny valley of the Thing in this movie bothers, so maybe this movie can perform despite that. Maybe no one wants to see a brash young man as the Human Torch. Maybe this movie can survive without that. Maybe this movie can even survive, despite the fact that the Silver Surfer, one of the most popular characters in Marvel Comics, couldn't save the Fantastic Four movie in its previous iteration. Rise of the Silver Surfer, despite the fact that the Silver Surfer's presence couldn't save that movie, maybe the Silver Surfette can. I don't think that this movie can survive, can thrive, can become profitable for the Marvel Cinematic Universe because no one likes the Fantastic Four. You were putting the house on the fourth film, technically the fifth film, of a superhero team that has never worked on screen. Never has this worked. And this is the one on which they're betting the house. Okay, I just don't think it's going to work.